improvisation, the way I like to start, pick up the guitar, and I mean, you could just go straight into that, but I don't find that the most inspiring way to start warming up. So instead I like to improvise, get a nice flow going, get some good vibes going, feel good, get into a music making mood rather than starting with a regimented, technically focused mood. Right? I'm gonna just let the hands kind of flow. There's a little just improvisation. Nice chord there, I like that one. If you're good with your chord knowledge, can you identify it? What do we got? We've got an E major chord with a C sharp, add 6, and an F sharp, add 9. So you could say E, add 6, add 9. It's like an A chord, right? Take your A chord and shift it up, all those fingers up to the 11th fret. There's a nice chord. That's kind of the beautiful thing about improvisation. You can discover things like that from flow and just getting into a zone rather than thinking. Alright, so today I'm going to do some scales here. Pretty epic, pretty intense workout here for the guitar. I do have a little bit of time today, which is nice right now. A bit of time to practice, which is nice. So I'm going to set my timer for 45 minutes. My nails, check my nails, check your nails. Every time you practice, you want to check check the quality of your nails, make sure they're smooth, make sure each nail is sounding good, right? I finger, M finger, A finger, thumb, yeah, check each one. Make sure they're all sounding good. Set your timer, get your metronome open. What percentage of, tell us in the chat, honestly, do you use the metronome when you practice? If so, how much? Is it every time you practice? Is it once in a while? Is it never? Barely ever? How much do you use the metronome? Love to know. Thank you for joining as well. Feel free to say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Let me know if you have any questions. I've got a whole playlist now of warm-up videos. I'm very, very thankful to everyone who watches them. The views are going up and up. It's really quite nice, quite a pleasant surprise to see that people are interested in technique and warming up, and I think there's a reason for that. I think we don't always see behind the scenes, right? We watch guitarists on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, and they're amazing, right? There's so many amazing guitarists. Looks like they've just gotten up there and just woof, they play through a piece. It's perfect, one take, beautiful camera angles, great sound. It's not all that it seems, though. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, a lot of practice, a lot of technical practice, technical work. If you want to play virtuosic pieces, you got to practice like a virtuoso. You got to do your technical work. You just have to. You can't skip it. So all that behind the scenes work, you don't always hear exactly how much is involved, what's involved, what sort of exercises to do, how long to practice for, using the metronome, getting a routine going, what materials do you use, how do you structure your practice, how do you practice so that your passages are all secure and clear and memorized, and right. So this is kind of a little bit of the behind the scenes here. So I hope it helps you in some way to get that. Terry, hey Terry, you just enjoy listening. It hurts your fingertips. All right, that's all good. If you just want to listen to, that's all good as well. So I'm going to get the metronome going here. I'm going to start with Scales by Andres Segovia. And then we're going to go into Mozzani. So this will be a pretty intensive, like pretty high level kind of routine here. Nothing too basic. We're going to just get straight into some big scales and fast tempo, and just to get warmed up very quickly. So we've got once a week. Okay, here we go. Conrad from Adelaide. You use the metronome once a week. All right, not bad. Once a week is not too bad. I would highly recommend, if you can, try to do it once a day or maybe a few times a week. That would be great. Maybe one of the challenges is, how do you use the metronome, right? How do you actually use the metronome effectively? And having the right metronome can help. So I use a metronome. I'm going to put it in the chat here. So the metronome app I use is called Soundbreno. It's a free app. You can download that from the Android Google Play Store or the Apple Store. I highly recommend it because it's got some functions and features that you might find useful. You can change the time signature, you can change the subdivision of the beat. So you can have quarter note beat, you can set that same tempo to an eighth note beat, to a triplet. Here it is, triplet. You can set it to other varieties of triplets. You can set it to a 16th note, right? So if I do that 16th note, do something like, or scale. right? So you might find increasing the subdivisions to be helpful. You might find decreasing the subdivisions to be helpful. It really depends, but this app gives you the option, so it has the functionality. It also has a cool option where you can tap the tempo that you want. So you can like da 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 da. You can kind of think of a tempo like that. Da 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 da. Tap it in, and it gives you that tempo. So that's 74. I'm just on a quarter note beat here. I'm going to start with Segovia's scales. I'll put them up on the screen for you. So let me just give me a minute here to sort out this here. I'm going to get I'll turn this off for a minute. I'll put this up here for you. Oh, that's gone really large there. I'll just make that a bit smaller. I'm using OBS, by the way, for this live stream. Okay, so I've got this advanced routine here that I put together, and the first thing in this routine are the Segovia scales here. I do recommend using what I call burst rhythms, and I will do some of those today. I don't want to talk through these too much because I've done that already before a little bit, and I do want to really get into the warm up here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this burst rhythm, da 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 da. So this first burst rhythm here. I'm going to use rest strokes and standard right hand fingerings. We're starting with C major. So we're going to go. Again. Now I'm going to go M-I. Okay, now I'm going to go to A minor. I'm going to do the second burst rhythm, which is da 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 da, ticka 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 t, ticka 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 t, like that. I'd suggest you give these burst rhythms a go if you've never tried them before. In yesterday's live stream, we were talking about the importance of contact points and securing as many contact points as you can. So one of those extra contact points is the thumb resting on the 6th string. I like to rest the thumb on the 6th string as an extra contact point. It's like an anchor for the right hand, helps to stabilize the hand. And then with the left hand, every finger you keep down is essentially like an extra contact point. So you might notice when I play the scale, see I've got a lot of extra contact points here. I've got my thumb there, but these, when I've stopped the scale, I've got these two fingers here. So these are extra contact points which help. It means I can basically play with my eyes closed. Let me try. With my eyes closed, because I've got these contact points. Right? Okay, so because I've got those contact points down, everything's close, everything is locked in. You know, I'm trying to move as efficiently as possible. Then you don't need to be looking so much, and you have a certain sense of ease and comfort and security. So I've got a question here. Do you think using a backing track is equivalent of a metronome? Yeah, for sure. I think definitely. I mean, as long as the backing track's in time, as long as the backing track is metronomically in time. But even if it's not, it is, you know, basically using a metronome helps you to follow. It helps you to follow a beat. So if a backing track is the same thing, it's almost like having a virtual, you know, ensemble partner or a virtual conductor or something like that in the metronome. So backing tracks certainly can. In some ways, a backing track can be an advantage because you can set different grooves to the backing track. You can have different instrumentations and things like that. The metronome is just a beat, so it's kind of more straightforward. So yeah, for sure, backing tracks are great. I would highly recommend that. Especially if you're playing Spanish music, Brazilian music, Latin American music, jazz, anything like that. I think a backing track because of the groove. I think even if you're playing Baroque music, right, is a really great. jig or something, right? It's got that, right? It's got that groove to it. So setting backing tracks can be really helpful. Anyway, let's keep going here with the scale. So we did A minor, and I showed you the kind of proof in the pudding there, closing your eyes. You know, it's a good test if you can close your eyes and play a scale, right? That's all with all the shifts. If you can navigate the fretboard with your eyes closed, it's a very good sign that you are staying very efficient, that you're keeping the contact points all down, especially with the left hand. When you play a scale, you want to know, well, when you play anything on the guitar, you want to know what position you're in at all times. You always want to know what position you're in. So I'm doing a slightly different fingering to this one here. I'm starting the A on the 6th string on the 5th fret, which puts me into the 5th position. So 5th position, and I'm going to the 9th, 10th, and then 14th, and then 10th, 7, 5. Right, so if you don't know what position you're in when you're playing guitar with the left hand, if you don't know the position you're in at any given point, you will probably be lost. Right? It's like your map and compass the position, right? So what I do with students here and in my own preparation is I will put positions in, you know, a lot of the time. So like here we're starting in the 2nd position. And we're going 2nd, 7th. Our position is defined by the fret your first finger is playing at. So 2nd, 7th, 12th, 7, 2nd. I'm going to tap that tempo in 130, doing M and A, A and M. Another thing I want to talk about is shifting, because yesterday's live stream I was talking about Mertz's scales by Johann Caspar Mertz, and he tends to shift like one time in a scale. So you're in one position, one shift, and then one position again, one shift per scale. Segovia is almost doing the opposite. He's kind of shifting gradually, like from 2nd to 5th to 7th, 7th to 12th. It's relatively gradual. He could have done something like 2nd to 7th or to 12th or something, right? Well, that is what we're doing anyway. But anyway, he could have shifted with fewer shifts. We're getting quite a number of shifts. So shifting is something to think about. How can we shift, securely? Because shifting is one of those points in guitar playing where errors are very likely to occur, right? We're lifting our finger off, we're losing a contact point. That's partly why it's difficult. We're giving up a contact point. So sometimes we can keep a contact point down, but a lot of the times we'll have to give up a contact point. So from here to there, I have to give up a contact point, right? I can't keep a finger down on the strings. I have to move. So that's something to keep in mind. But I like this analogy of, it's kind of like a bridge. The way we shift, it's like a bridge. We go up, and then we shift, and then we go down. So the reason we want to do that is mostly to avoid that squeak, that kind of, that kind of squeaking sound, right? That happens when we lift up and we move sideways and create friction. So we want to avoid that. Another thing we want to do when we shift is we want to stay low. We don't want to shift up and lift the fingers too high. And then another aspect to good shifting, secure shifting, is we want to still move in anticipation. So the next finger I'm using, I'm going to the 7th fret. I'm using the first finger, moving to the 7th fret here. So I want to move in anticipation. I want to prepare that. I want to get that finger ready in the air as I'm shifting. Okay. I also want to look ahead. I want to be looking at that fret before I go there. The analogy I like here is like if you had a bow and arrow, what do you do before you fire the arrow? You want to look at the target first and then fire the arrow. It sounds very obvious, right? But it's kind of the equivalent here. We want to look at the fret we're aiming for before we fire our shift. If we shift and then look at where we're going, it's like the equivalent of firing a bow and then looking at the target. Right? It's not a very good way to do it. So you want to look at the target. You want to lift low. You want to stay low. You want to think in a bridge, up, across, down, and then the final little point is you want to move the arm and the hand and the wrist and the thumb as a unit. You want to move them together as a unit, right? If there's any exception to that, maybe the elbow could lead a little bit, but definitely the forearm, the wrist, and the thumb that you want to move you want them to move as a unit. If there's any disconnection between that, like so you'll do something like that. If you don't move the arm, you try to move like that. Actually, it might look kind of, silly almost what I'm doing there, but you actually see people. This is quite common, so we want to avoid that. So we want to move the arm, move the forearm, move the thumb. We don't want to leave the thumb behind. It's very common to see the thumb being left behind, like. Right, so we want everything to move as a unit. It's like a fluid motion of the arm, forearm, wrist, hand, and thumb. Very important. That's all connected there. Okay. Anyway, let's keep going. See my eye movement? I'll try and call out when I'm looking at the next position. Okay, so 7th. 12th, 7th, 2nd, right, to give you an idea. Well, let me do that again, I'll call it out, so 7th, 12th, 7th, 2nd. Okay, so I'm a few notes ahead. I'm looking at the next position a few notes ahead. All right, so that's a good little exercise. You could try that. It's actually very powerful to call out things like that. When you're practicing, you can call it out, to actually speak it out 7th and go there, right? Let's keep this rhythm going. I'm going to go to the next scale, which is E minor. This is another advantage of practicing scales, is you can learn your keys. You can learn the circle of fifths, a very, very important tool in music, learning the circle of fifths. So we're starting with at 12 o'clock with 0 sharps and flats, and then we go to 1 o'clock, I guess, which would be 1 sharp, which is G major, is what I just played. And then we have the relative minor. So C major at 12 o'clock has the relative minor of A minor. It's down 3. So you just count down 3, C, B, A. And then we go to G major, which is up a step from down a step from the relative minor. It will always be down a step from the relative minor. So from A, we go down to G. Now we're at G major, and then we go to E minor. And then we go down a step from E minor. E goes down to D. We go to D major. And then down 3 is B minor. And then we go down a step to A major. Let me I won't write it out. It'll take too long. I'll just keep practicing here. Okay, so we're going to the relative minor of G. So we have 1 sharp. It's melodic minor as well. E minor. I'm using this triplet burst rhythm that I have at the start here. Da 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 dum da 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 dum da, that one. Okay, E minor. major, so now we go to 2 sharps. So down a step from E. E goes down a step to D. That's our next key with 2 sharps. Another shortcut, if you want a little shortcut for identifying keys, take your last sharp in the sequence. So in this case, it's C sharp, go up a step. C becomes D. If you have 1 sharp, F, go up a step. F becomes G. If you have 3 sharps, G is the last in the sequence. Go up a step from G, you get to A. And that the same applies for all of the sharps there. So I'm just trying to, I'm giving you these little like tricks very quickly. Hopefully one of them will stick with you at least, so that you can identify keys faster. Okay, D major, I and A. Basically, I'll just repeat it until it feels like, sometimes you might feel these like little spots that are just slightly insecure. So I'll just keep repeating until and identifying that where that place is exactly, and then trying to figure out how can I make that feel secure. Usually the way to do that is to increase the contact points in some way. So in that case, it was to prepare my right hand on the next string that I was playing, to get my right hand to be the next finger onto the next string when I'm changing strings, because sometimes the right hand doesn't always find the correct string. So yeah, so that's feeling secure now. So that's D major, we go down 3 steps, D, C, B, to B minor. Okay, I'm going to speed it up a little bit here. I'm going to go back to the other burst rhythms. At A major now. We're at A major. So we're at B minor. We go down a step to A major. B goes down to A. So from minor to the next major. And by all means, if you find a spot in the scale, maybe the whole scale is, maybe there's only a small little bit of the scale where you're having, some issues, then you can just practice, like chop the scale into a smaller bit. You don't have to play the whole scale to fix one little spot, right? So in that case, I detected there was a bit of an issue when I got up here. Again, still there, it's still a bit shaky. So I'll just repeat that, ascending that octave, that going up until that's nice and yeah, it's feeling pretty good. There's M and I, rest stroke, 130. Yeah. And then we go down 3 from A, G, F, F sharp minor is the next one. So you see that? There's a little... It's a little messy in the middle there. Of just this little slice of the scale, so you can just isolate that little bit. It's actually, I like to think of scales as like, it's almost like a gamified version of a piece. It's like a mini version of a piece of music. So sometimes it's good to run through a whole piece, sometimes it's good to run through a whole scale, but sometimes it's good to take a little bit, isolate little parts. I call divide and conquer when you're playing a piece. And sometimes it's good to do that with a scale too. Divide and conquer. Pure repetition, though, is not always the best thing. It's also good to try and think of solutions. So what is there something you can do, whether it's change the fingering or increase the efficiency or slow it down or add preparation, whatever it is there something you can do to help make the passage more secure? So in this case, repetition is really just helping. And very often repetition will be, sometimes I joke, with some students, I'll just say to them, just play that bar 5 more times, right? Just play this measure 5 times. And 75% of the time, maybe more, just by doing that alone, just by isolating, just by divide and conquer, isolating a small bit and repeating that a few times, things get better. And I often say, like, if you're ever going to teach, just do that. Just say to the student, play that bar 5 times. If you hear that there's like not something that's not quite happening, and it's amazing how that can fix so many problems. Just that one little technique, divide and conquer. You want me to go faster? Let's go to 140. M and A. Not sure if I can do this with M and A for the whole scale. So you can kind of hear that it's a little bit sloppy right there. Sometimes just pure repetition can help. Bear in mind I'm using 2 very weak fingers, M and A. Advantage of burst rhythms. It will be very difficult to maintain this tempo. Right, it's difficult to maintain that tempo, especially with fingers M and A on the right hand. But with burst rhythms, you can increase your tempo. You can play at a faster tempo and really get things going, get things warmed up, get things synchronized with a faster tempo. With burst rhythms. Okay, so that's 140, E major. Next we go down 3, so E, D sharp, C sharp, so we get to C sharp minor. Sometimes I like to increase the burst amount, so that's a little bit messy, but where have I got this? Someone Lee. Nocturne 9. Thank you from South Korea. Wow. Oh, thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in. Nocturne number 9. Wow. Oh, I love that piece. I love that piece. Maybe we can do a little analysis of it after some scale playing. Does that sound good? Who else would be interested in that? You want to analyze some Chopin? See what's he doing with these harmonies and melodies and structures and everything. We are actually going to do that in May, June and July on the Creative Classical Guitarist. That's exactly our task. We're going to study that nocturne. We're going to compose a nocturne based on Chopin's nocturne. Now, there aren't many nocturnes actually. Well, there are some nocturnes composed for the guitar, but we don't have quite, the collection that like the pianists do with Chopin's nocturnes. So let's do that at the end. Let's do a little analysis, maybe just a little bit of it, because it's a pretty big piece. So where were we there? C sharp minor. Sorry that I don't always get to your comments straight away, because sometimes I'm fixated on playing and looking at the music and stuff. So C sharp minor, let's do B major, 140, I and A. I might go to free stroke now. Just in case, if you want to, I don't know, take a screenshot of the rhythms that I'm using or something, feel free to do that. Here these are the rhythms that I'm using. So I just alternated from da 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 from that one to da 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 da. And then earlier I was using these triplet ones here. So I find these burst rhythms really fun and helpful for breaking scales down. Part of what that burst rhythms do is they break the scale down, right, into smaller slices, because you're kind of stopping at certain points. Stop. It's like interval training. You're gonna stop, burst, stop, rest, burst, rest, burst, rest, and then in that process you're also breaking the scale down into slices. So all right, what were we up to there? B major. Let's use 140. I'm not too happy with the high. Sharp minor, so we go down 3 from B, B, A sharp, G sharp, down 3 to G sharp minor. We're here. Alright, now I'm starting to feel a bit more warmed up. And then we go down a step, G sharp goes down to F sharp major. I'm going to try this with M and A. Maybe, or if this doesn't work, I might go to PI. I might start getting the thumb involved. It's very challenging with M and A. I'll be happy if I can just get this little slice of the scale. Almost. Okay, I'm going to transition to thumb and index. Ooh, that's tricky. Okay, now thumb and middle. I'm backtracking to triplets, so it's a bit slower, a slower rhythm with the same tempo, 140. That was D sharp minor, D sharp minor. So we were F sharp major, D sharp minor. We're at the thorny end of the circle of fifths here. D sharp minor goes to C sharp major or D flat major. We're going to go to D flat major. I'm going to use PA, thumb, ring. And then B flat minor. PI. Again. Again. PM. Now, I feel like I've just suddenly, this is what often happens. I start off, this is what a warm-up is all about. I start off and it's like sometimes the scales are okay and sometimes they're a bit sloppy, and I can reach a certain tempo and it's like I have to push, but and it's not always happening, and I keep pushing myself and pushing myself a little bit, and then all of a sudden I get warmed up. It's like it's kind of like that feeling, like if you're going for a run or a workout, and you've gone from that state of being cold and stiff, and it's like all of a sudden you're like warmed up, you're pumped, you're just ready to go. That's where I feel like I'm at now. It took almost the whole time, 45 minutes plus some speaking, so maybe maybe 30 minutes, let's say, of actual just playing. 30 minutes of just gunning through scales, right? That's what it took me to start to feel like warmed up. So maybe you might need to reevaluate, like if you're not spending a decent amount of time warming up, maybe that's what's causing all of your pains, all of your woes with guitar playing. It might be because you're just not getting into this state. If you're not like, if you're in this state now, like now, if I want to play, right, something like that. If I tried to do that and I wasn't warmed up, it's going to be hard. It's going to be cold. It's going to be sloppy, uncoordinated. I'm going to be struggling. But now it's like much more. It's much more effortless. I still have a ways to go. I've only just begun warming up. I still have a ways to go. Let's do some Mozzani. I'm going to stop the Segovia scales. We're going to move to Mozzani. These two, man, if you combine these two authors together for your scale practice, spend a good 45 minutes on them. You're gonna be ripping through with your technique here. Let me find Mozzani's book. You can find both of these. You can just find, if you Google Segovia scales, you'll find them. If you Google Mozzani, Mozzani, School for Guitar, you'll also find that it's public domain. So I found it maybe 3-4 years ago, just browsing around online and looking through lots of method books and things like that, and I found this one, and I really, it was a golden find. I like to say this is the true pumping nylon. Before the pumping nylon we all know today, know and love. Maybe you don't love it, maybe you do, but I think this is really like the original pumping nylon here. We get exercises like this with a barre. Okay, now that's a warm-up. Now we go to the 5th string, it's the same. I'm going to get the metronome. Okay, so that's 14. That is a great warm-up. Oh man, like barring and doing those big stretches and repeating that and getting a fast tempo going. And we'll do number 15. Kind of trying to reach another level of warming up, like a new gear, you could say, of This is what I suggest you try to do when you warm up. Don't be too, there's 45 minutes gone. Don't be too like comfortable and casual, like don't be too much on autopilot and on cruise control. Like you want to this to a certain extent, and you want to be careful. You never want to injure yourself or like get into bad habits, excessive tension, anything like that. But at the same time, you want to be pushing yourself. You got to find your limits, or otherwise you're not going to progress. It's like if you went to the gym and you lifted the same amount of weights the same number of times every time you went to the gym. I mean, you're getting something from that, but you get to a point where you need to increase. You increase the weight, you need to increase the reps, you need to increase the everything. All right, everything needs to you just need to keep building your strength. I want to listen really carefully. Make sure every note. No. It's better. No. One more. Any questions in the chat? I'm seeing some applause here from thank you Terry, thank you. I don't know if Lee is your name, from South Korea. Okay, let's do maybe one more. I'm gonna do number 16, which is an extended version of number 15. Yeah. Oops. Sometimes it's as much a matter of concentration as it is physical ability, you know what I mean? Like, you just have to concentrate. I can feel my brain just like struggling to concentrate through this at that tempo. Okay, my brain has had enough. I cannot think anymore doing that. But I feel like I've gotten a good workout, good warm up there. That, to me, that's a minimum. Like, that's my minimum. If I'm going to do any kind of performance or concert or anything, that's an absolute minimum for me. I haven't done slurs, I haven't done stretching, I haven't done arpeggios. So really absolute minimum, but it's very intensive. So in a way, it's like in the shortest possible time. I think 45, to get a good warm up in 45 minutes, I think is pretty good. So in a fairly short amount of time, I feel very warmed up for the amount of time, especially. All right. Well, I said we would look at nocturne, Chopin's nocturne. So let's do it. Let's analyze this beautiful nocturne. And you can, if you go to my channel, this video of this nocturne is actually the sort of featured video of my channel. So you can see me play it, and I have to, let me hang on a second here. I have to restart my preview here because the annotation tool sometimes goes away. So I'm just in case you're wondering, I'm just using a Mac, and I'm just using what's called Preview, which is like the default PDF viewer, and that allows me to annotate files usually. Here we go. Here it is. Okay, so I'll put this back here. Teaching. There we go. We're still on. There we go. Okay. Is that sharing? No. Seems to be frozen. Hang on a second. There we go. That should do it. Yeah. Okay. So we don't have very long here because I am due for a student. I'm teaching in about 12 minutes. But yeah, this beautiful Chopin nocturne. There's just a little bit of the introduction, a little bit of the start. You probably are familiar with it originally for the piano. So let's just analyze, I mean, even just that much. The first phrase, which is how many measures, each measure is so long, it's in 12/8. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only 4 measures. It is what's called a parallel period. That would be the question. And then here's the answer, which is a repeat with ornamentation. It's a repeat of what we just heard, at least at the beginning, and then it probably goes into a slight, oh, it's almost a exact repeat of those 4 measures we heard. So this would be called a question. This would be called an answer. And that's 4 measures, and that's 4 measures. And that actually makes up an entire section, which is very common. So that makes up a section, and then we go to a new period after that. So I don't want to get, I mean, I could break down the whole piece into periods and everything, but let's just look at the first, even the first 4 bars will probably be enough because there's so much to dive into here. So yeah, hey, Terry knows this one. Yeah, Chopin's gorgeous, gorgeous music. So we're in the key of, remember the trick, take the last sharp, this is on D, go up a step. So we're in the key of E, D goes up to E, right? We're in the key of E major. For this, the original was in, I think, E flat major. So Tárrega has transcribed this for the guitar. I put it into a very friendly key of E major. We get, you know, the open E strings, the open B string, the open A string, right? So 4 open strings that fit into this key. So what's he doing here? He's giving us a beautiful melody, first of all, which starts with a leap. Let's just look at that. And if I had to phrase this, I would probably say that's like the first sub-phrase. Then we get a second phrase. Which is quite similar in a way. It starts off with this leap. This B up to the G sharp. This goes B up to G sharp, right? They start off with the same leap. The first one, obviously, starting on an E chord. The second one is starting on a C sharp 7 chord. Which is going somewhere, which I'll talk about soon. So we're starting with an E chord. We get an E pedal in the bass. The E drops to D sharp, and then the D sharp drops to C sharp. So we're getting a descending. Here, D. The descending bass, right, by step. Beautiful, beautiful. You know. If you combine that, like I did with the melody, right? It's just so beautiful to hear that. Beautiful counterpoint there. So harmonically, we have, you know, we have an E chord here. E triad, right? E, G sharp, and B. Doing so many interesting things. So we get an E triad, then we get this. So you've got the E pedal, so I'm not going to include that in the harmonic analysis. I think you could, but it's E, it's the 1 chord. This would be F, A, C, E, F sharp, A, C, natural, E. So that's F sharp, half diminished 7th, which is the 2 chord in the key of E major, right? E to F. So we're going E to F sharp, half diminished 7th. He hangs on to that F sharp in the melody, which I call a tendency tone, and he changes chord to E major. And then he resolves that F sharp. So we go back to E major, 1. So it's 2 half diminished 7th. 1, 2. Now this is pretty advanced harmony, so if you're not, I can't explain everything, just not enough time. I just have to describe what I'm seeing. So, which I apologize, I can't describe more. So we're going back to E major. Now he resolves this, so this F sharp is a remnant of the F sharp diminished 7th chord here, which then resolves over here. Now at the same time that the melody resolves, he actually brings in that D sharp in the bass. So the D sharp brings in a dissonance. It's like E major with / D sharp. It's like an E major chord with a D sharp in the bass. So he's going beautiful, right? So E major, F sharp, half diminished 7th, link E major with the F sharp, and then D, and then E major with D sharp in the bass. Absolutely gorgeous harmonic vocabulary he's using here. And then, as I said, that D sharp drops down to C sharp, and we go to C sharp dominant 7th. Whenever you say dominant, that means it's the 5th of something. It's the dominant, the 5th of. It's very slowly taking us to F sharp over here, which is again the 2 chord, but this time it's just minor, it's not diminished. So 2 minor, and so that's 5 of 2. That's the dominant of the 2nd degree. So it's the dominant of F sharp, which is C sharp. So there's F sharp. It should be F sharp minor, but it's actually not. The F sharp minor really arrives a little bit later than expected. Great composers do that, right? They do things that are slightly unexpected, not fully unexpected, because that would be chaotic, but slightly unexpected, like that D sharp over here and this half diminished 7th chord over here, and prolonging this dominant 7th chord over here, and then prolonging the arrival of the resolution of the dominant 7th chord. So we go from C sharp 7, what is that chord? That's a very tense chord, right? If we want to stack it in thirds, I've not actually done this before. I have to think. B, D, F, and E sharp. So it could be B, D, F. Ooh, that's a tricky one. It almost reminds me of C sharp 7. No, it doesn't. Wow, that's a tricky one. I can't even. B, D, F, E sharp. I don't know how to describe the E sharp. Or if we take. It sounds like a diminished chord on top. Okay, I think it's an F sharp pedal with a diminished chord on top. D, it's just that it's spelt with an E sharp. It's a bit E sharp because that's going to F sharp. E sharp is pulling us to F sharp, but then harmonically I would want to spell it as F natural instead of E sharp. So that would give us B, D, F, which would be B diminished. So B diminished. B diminished with F sharp in the bass. Now, when you analyze something like Chopin, it's not going to be straightforward, right? There we go. And then he goes to F sharp minor. That's the 2 chord. So this is B diminished would be, I would analyze this in the key of F sharp minor, not in the key of E major. So that would be F sharp, A, G, B. It's like a 4 diminished. It doesn't really make sense to me, but I don't have enough time right now to make sense of it. So that's the result I have right now. B, does that mean B, D, F? Unless it's E sharp. Oh, another option, it could be, this makes sense. It's E sharp diminished. E sharp diminished. Yeah, it's E sharp diminished. Sorry about that, with F sharp in the bass. So it's E sharp diminished, which is in the key of F sharp minor is the 7th. The 7 chord, 7 diminished. There we go. So we're going C sharp diminished, dominant 7th, and then E sharp diminished. Very similar, but he's putting the, instead of E sharp in the bass, we get the F sharp, which then resolves. Beautiful. Okay, I have to stream through the rest here quickly. Then we go to a B chord, dominant 5 chord of E. Check out the bass there, again going up chromatically, B, B sharp to C sharp. This is a G, B, D sharp. That's a G sharp diminished. We're going to C sharp minor. That's the relative minor of E major. And then we're going to E, A, C, E, G, A sharp diminished. Chopin, wow. A sharp diminished 7th because of the G, A sharp, E, G, B. No, sorry, A sharp, C sharp, E, G. That is the 7 diminished of where we're going to next. This is a cadential 6/4, I think, with a beautiful, yeah, so that's the 1 chord in second inversion with B in the bass, and then we go to the 5 chord, 7th, and then we resolve. So the ending is fairly standard, except that he's got this beautiful dissonance. Usually you'd hear it like something like that, but he's got a okay, well, that's about all I can do. The G sharp diminished 7th is unusual. Where is that? Because the 5 of C sharp minor would be C, D, E, F, G. So is it G sharp dominant? Maybe I got that wrong. Yeah, it's G sharp dominant, not G sharp 7. Diminished. It's G sharp dominant 7. So that is the 5 of, that is the 5th of 6. The dominant of the relative minor. It's the dominant of C sharp minor, and then that's where we get the 6 chord coming in. And then we get the 7 diminished of 5. And then we go to basically a 5 chord here, which is B. And then we go back to the E chord. Wow. Chopin. There you go. Bit of analysis there. If you want to learn more about analysis and analyzing Chopin's nocturne and, you know, going in depth with all, if you don't understand this kind of thing, I recommend you go back to the foundations. And my online school, we do have the foundations. We've got a foundations program, which is a lot of fun. Let's see if I can show you really quick. I do have a student who's waiting, so I will be very quick here. I will show you foundations. Here, Safari, I think. Here we go. So this is my school, the Creative Classical Guitarist. We have a feed. It's a bit like social media, but with other features. We've got courses and all sorts of things. So if we go to Foundation Composing, this is a program that takes you through so that you will be able to understand everything I just spoke about there when it came to Chopin. It's actually, he's doing very complicated things, but still not beyond the realms of the foundations of harmony, which is amazing. You know, when a composer can do that. We have an introduction to composing, an introduction to how to use MuseScore. There's a workshop here that guides you through composing. There's a quiz you can take. Then we go through triads. You learn all about how to construct triads and everything, the theory, how to play them, movable triads on the guitar, how to compose with them. You learn about passing tones. You learn about triads of the key. You can harmonize Twinkle Twinkle Little Star as a task. Then we go through seventh chords. That's when you add another third to the chord, 4 notes stacked in thirds. So we learn the 5 main types: major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half and full diminished. And I did mention the diminished chords, especially in the dominant 7th you saw in the Chopin. 7th chord inversions, when you invert them. And then composing with 7th chords and what that's like. And then harmonizing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star with 7th chords. Then we can go to chord substitutions. This is where we expand our knowledge of chords a little bit more. We learn about the primary chords. We learn about substitutions of 4 and 5, augmented 6, Neapolitan 6. We learn about the cadential 6/4 as well, which is in this one, which is what I mentioned in Chopin. Chopin uses that. Then we talk about modulation. Once you get up to section 5, that's everything Chopin is doing pretty much. Passing modulation, sustained modulation. So passing modulations are those, like where I was talking about, like this is the dominant of this key and he's moving to a new key. So I better go now. So that's there. If you want to join, you can check out the links in the video description. Just join now, and there's a free 7-day trial to join. And yeah, that's just one of the many things that's going on in the Creative Classical Guitarist. But thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next time.